Hello everyone, my name is Liz and welcome back to the Poppy Library. This is KnitCast. It's been a really busy week over here in the studio. I've been knitting away at a whole bunch of projects while I gear up for an upcoming trip to the northeastern part of the United States, which is my first summer in the northeastern part of the United States. So I'm super excited to escape from the heat. And before we get started, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who watched my Notes from a Knitter on the Ranunculus. I had very fun conversations with everyone sharing their experience with the Ranunculus and kind of talking about why it's their favorite, or maybe they hadn't started and I inspired them to start it, which that was so nice. I'm just thrilled that you enjoyed that video. More to come on that since I am knitting up a lot of projects right now and there are lots of notes from a knitters to come. So thank you so much for liking, watching, subscribing to the channel because of that video. I'm so happy you're here. So welcome back. Just to tell the difference on what a KnitCast is versus a Notes from a Knitter. A Notes from a Knitter episode is more of a deep dive into each pattern or a project that I'm working on. And KnitCast is more of a knitting podcast type of show and tell, where I show and tell things that I've gotten, things that are inspiring me, and also knits that I'm working on at the moment. So with that all being said, let's get talking about all the knits that I'm knitting right now, which I have 3. The first one that I want to share is one that will be done by, I think, in a few days. It took a while to get started just because I'm not used to knitting with this kind of yarn, but I have a really good update on this pattern, which is the Miss Serena by Caitlin Hunter. And if you don't know already, I'm a big fan of Caitlin Hunter patterns. They're very easy to read, very easy to follow. They teach you a lot of things about color work, how to choose your yarns. There's different patterns that have maybe, you know, more than 2 colors. I have another one that's sitting in my closet right now that's one of my favorites. It's a little too small, which I might have to redo. But I'm a huge fan of Caitlin Hunter and all of her patterns. They are very flattering on me. I absolutely love them and they're very clear to understand. So if you're a beginner knitter and you want to learn and kind of jump into color work patterns, I would highly suggest doing Caitlin Hunter's patterns. I've knit probably, I think this is my 4th garment because I have the 3rd on the way. I think maybe there's more. No, this is the 5th garment. I'm apparently a huge fan. I just find them so soothing and I love the patterns that come out of the yoke. So it's a top-down tee and this is how it's going. I know! It's going really well. I'm knitting this with the cotton merino blend from, oh my gosh, Knitting for Olive. And also with the pure silk base from Knitting for Olive. And this is the Piglet colorway. And then the colorway for this pink, it's actually sitting right here, I think. No, it's not. I'll have to find it later. I think it's in my bag. Hold on. No. Well, I don't have that colorway, but it's a pure silk line and it is quite this beautiful pink fuchsia colorway. Going to a concert on Friday and this upcoming Friday, and I plan to wear this. It's very fitting for it. And I have officially finished the color work. Now I'm working on the body and I have broken off for the sleeves right here and I've put them on my nifty little plastic, I forget what they call these, little like stitch holders. It's just a long tube of plastic that fits over your needle. And you just slide the stitches on it. I'm sure you guys have seen it. If not, I'm happy to talk about it more. So just let me know. And it's smooth sailing now. I will say working with more natural kind of fibers like silk or actually not silk, but cotton specifically was a little challenging to do color work in, but I worked through it. It just took a little longer than usual. I will say the adventure of trying to do trying to make sure that your tension is holding, that was the most challenging part. The tension kind of felt all over the place. But once I kind of got past the first or second row, after kind of warming up my hands a little bit, it was smooth sailing. So this isn't blocked yet, so you can see kind of like the lace work is a little, it lays a little bit differently than when you actually block it. It'll lay flat, and I'm really happy with it. I got through the hardest part, which is all the color work. It's the hardest part and the most joyous part, because you just want to like get through it, but also it's the repetitive counting for me. So I can do like, okay, it's 3 of this color, 2 of this color, 3 of this color, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then, you know, your brain starts to see patterns and you do it for like a whole round and then you move to another one. So your interest just keeps going. And I love it. And I can't wait to wear it. It does, like, all the fabric still feels cool to the skin. It's not going to feel hot. I'm very thrilled. I cannot wait. I've always heard people talking about summer knits and, you know, knitting with cotton and stuff. And I didn't like the fabric, or I didn't like the way it felt in my hands, so I really avoided it. But I think this is something that I'm going to reach for in my wardrobe in the next, forever, for as long as this lasts. I feel like I'm definitely going to wear this one out. So my favorite part is after breaking for the sleeves, now it's time to work the body in the round. This one does have a pattern for like to do some kind of lace work for the body. I won't be doing that just because I do want to wear this to work, and I don't want to have to wear an undershirt underneath it because it's already too hot. We don't have to go into why it's too hot over here in Austin, Texas, but it's going to stay hot for quite some time. I think I looked up I was really curious because around this time during the summer, I tend to get like extremely fed up with weather. And I was like, how long more do I have to go of these 100-degree days? Now, it's been like over 100 degrees every day since I think early June or late May. And I think it stops in late September-ish, but it's still hot, like 99-ish degrees, all the way up until late November. So I'm going to need everyone's prayers and thoughts, or whatever you do to like send good juju towards people's way. I'm going to need that to get me through this. And maybe some more knits. We're also going through a drought, so I'm trying not to go through existential dread. But we're getting through it by knitting, right? Right. So I'm really happy with this. This is, again, the Misterina tee by Caitlin Hunter. And to nobody's surprise at all, I have started my other Caitlin Hunter pattern, which is the Halibut. And I am knitting with this. Let's pull out what I'm knitting with here. I am knitting with, the body is the British DK, and I think it's the Lewis's shade. Lewis or Louis. I'm going to say Louis. That sounds fun. But this is in Les Garçons. And it is 76% BFL wool and 26% Masham wool. 76. I think it means 75 and 25. Yep, no, that's 75 and 25 because who has 102 of something? And it's non-superwash. It's a DK weight yarn, 268 yards that's 245 meters, and it's 100 gram skein. So this is going to be my, and of course, look how cute the logo is. I'm a sucker for a good logo. I say that all the time. I'm also knitting the color work portion. So my second color, what do they call it? My CC1 and Corey Worsted, Avoine. It's a gray color. Avon? Shoot. Avoine? Ugh. I'm the worst at pronouncing names. I really want to get it right, but I'll just show it to you. How about that? This is the colorway in Curry Worsted, and 230 meters, 250 yards, 100 grams per skein. And this is Falkland Corriedale, 75% of that, and 25% Gotland wool. So I will say that this is definitely a heavier knit, so it will have to be extremely cold for me to wear it here, which we do have some days in Austin where it's extremely cold and I can't wear this. But it's really for when I travel. And I'm going to a place where I'm not acclimated to that weather. Anything below 70 degrees, I'm going to need like a heavy sweater. That's the way it goes. Like when it gets to like 65 and lower, 65 degrees Fahrenheit and lower, I am just freezing because of me living close to the surface of the sun has acclimated me to the heat just a little bit. But anyway, I digress. So curry worsted, it is a little bit of a thicker yarn than this DK weight yarn, but it is defining the stitches perfectly when doing the color work. So this is how far I've gotten. I've gotten past the mock neck part, and now I'm down to starting the color work. And I did get a little bit of a different gauge, so I'm knitting a different size. I think I'm knitting a size down because for some reason I'm a little bit of a loose knitter in this in the round, but I think it's gonna go well. And as you can see, the color work is standing out beautifully. And I wonder if I can get a close-up of how this color work is working out. There we go. As you can see, the yarn for the like the Le Bien-Aimé yarn that I'm using for the color work, it's a little bit bigger than the actual stitches of the main color, which is the Les Garçons DK weight yarn. So, which is fine. That's kind of what I like. After doing some color work, I like the contrasting color. If it's going to be a little bit of a thicker yarn, I'd rather be the contrasting color that is the little bit thicker yarn, so that the main color can kind of recede a little bit, but those stitches won't go away completely. Like, I don't want it to be such a difference in the yarn that you can't see the main color, because that's what's going to contrast and make that pattern pop out. I really, again, I really enjoy Caitlin Hunter's color work that she does on her patterns, and the patterns, just like the stitch patterns, it's very intuitive. It's very like you can read your stitches and kind of tell where the pattern's going without having to look at the page too much to figure out, okay, what's next. And it's knitting up beautifully. I kind of put it to the side so I can finish my natural sweater that's going on over here for this concert that's coming up really soon, because I want to wear this while it's still hot, not like I don't have enough time. But I just want to finish this one sooner. This trip that's coming up is further than the concert. So that's that. Just a few comments on the yarn while I'm knitting it that I'm noticing. So I am noticing that it's very buttery soft. So this yarn that I got from Les Garçons, which is the British DK, it is like butter in your hands. And I know it's going to be really warm and like a little bit, it's very soft. Like it's not a superwash yarn. It's non-superwash. And superwash yarn kind of has that, like, I forget what they call it that's on it. But it has like not a film, but like a protective layer, I believe. And it kind of makes like it feels soft to the touch when you're knitting it. But this one does too. And I think it's maybe the oils from the fibers that do that. But when knitting it, it's just like, it feels good on the hands. I do have to stop when my hands get too sweaty. That's the only problem. But this one mixed with the curry worsted from Le Bien-Aimé, which I have knit a whole sweater in just that yarn, which was also buttery soft. And so it's just like this very luxurious, like, I can tell that I got my money's worth with this yarn on how it was processed, how it was spun, and I feel like money well spent, which is something that is great when you are putting your well-earned money and lots of it towards these kinds of yarns. So you definitely get the value for it. And I feel like this garment is going to be one that is going to just, again, I have a whole bunch of Caitlin Hunter patterns, just many different kinds of styles, which is great. But something about them, like I always go to these when it's really cold, and they're statement pieces, and I love a good statement piece. I do want to put this on so you can kind of see how it's laying out, because it's not a turtleneck, it's a mock neck, so it's different. Let me see if I can find the back, because you do shape. You do short rows to do some shaping on this. Oh, look at me. Ugh. Okay. See? It looks nice. I like it with my hair, right? And I think the color work, and then it's a big fish on it, right? So it's just gonna stand out, and it feels nice. Like it doesn't feel scratchy, like the fibers are stabbing at me, which I'm really sensitive around my neck and my chest area, and it feels just perfect. I can't wait. I should just wear this the whole time. Okay, anyway. So I'm really pleased on how these are knitting up. This is the update on my Ranunculus. And yes, guys, this happened in all like a week and a half's time. Like I have been knitting like crazy. It is the first time that I have knit more than one garment at a time. I'm usually like solo knitter. Like I want to finish this one thing and then I want to move on to the next thing. But I will say, constantly working on a few different patterns all at the same time has my brain like engaged. Like I'm super aware of where I am for each pattern. I enjoy taking a break from one and moving on to another and getting a lot of progress on that one and then moving to another. Like it's really motivating for me, and I didn't think I would be like that. So hooray. Yeah. I love developing those kinds of like things about myself, or just learning those things about myself and what my preferences are. So that's kind of cool. This one right here, this Ranunculus, which I did a whole little video about my notes on the Ranunculus and why I knit a whole bunch of them and why I really enjoy it. This one is being knit with the color, I think it's called Electric Yellow by Coats and Fiber. And I got this yarn at Woolen Folk last year, and she will be there again this year, and I'm gonna definitely go by her booth. I am waiting for the contrasting color to come in, so I'm going to be doing some color work after, this yoke is actually kind of done. So once that yarn comes in, I will be starting to do my color work pattern. But this is it's turning out really nice. I had a lot of questions about different yarn choices on my last video about the Ranunculus, and I will be responding to those, but I did want to point out the reason why I like this pattern a lot is because your yarn dictates what your garment will be, rather than I don't have to go in thinking like I want it to look this way. I kind of let the yarn take the journey of what the end product will be. It's one of those patterns you kind of have to, well, for me specifically, like you just got to let it go. You just got to knit with the yarn that you want. I mean, I don't even gauge for this either. Like I just go with it. I try to maybe get the same weight of yarn, but if not, like for example, I knit a mohair version of this and it turned out perfect. Like it was just like it's one of those things like you just can't control it too much, or if you can try, I'm sure you could, but for me it's one of those like wild card patterns that is okay. So I held this double again with 2 strands of merino nylon, and I did the wide net cast on, which this will expand once it's blocked. I wanted it to expand a little bit more, but again, I can't control it. I'm just letting the yarn tell the journey of this little sweater. I wanted it to be kind of like a side neck. I don't think that will happen, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm okay with it just being a little bit of a bigger neck, if anything, or just this. I'm okay with it. So yes, again, just waiting on that yarn to come in, and then I'm going to start kind of like my version of color work for the body. So I'm super excited about that. Hooray. And right now I'm just really focused on these patterns. I have another mini mock neck tank coming up after this, which once this tee is done, once this guy is done, I will be starting that as well. So lots of projects coming, lots of things being worked on, which I'm not mad about. I'm just kind of like enjoying it. It's been really great. I have quite the intense job. I work in hospitality, and within hospitality, you just have to be on at all times. You have to be available after hours. You are there to service others. That is what hospitality is. It can be stressful. It takes a lot of time. So when I do have free time, knitting has really just done it for me. It really does. And it calms me down. It soothes me. I really enjoy it. And I get something to wear out of it, which is just a win-win for me. I wanted to share. Okay, so now we're done with these projects. And I wanted to share a quick little experimentation that I did with the swatch. So for the Caitlin Hunter Halibut sweater, I wanted to maybe do some interesting color work by mixing in a lace weight yarn with the Le Bien-Aimé worsted yarn. And it didn't work out because that's too much yarn. That it was just too big. It was like a chunky weight yarn. You don't need to do that. But I did find it interesting, and I do want to use this for another pattern that I'm looking at for the winter. And I have this color changing yarn. Let's see if I can find it. So I got this yarn from one of our little yarn shops here in Austin. And it's called Gauge Yarn. And this one is called Perth, and it is a color changing yarn. It reminded me of like a spin cycle, but it's lace weight. So as you can tell, it's very thin. You can pair it with a mohair, I think, will look really nice, or pair it with a fingering weight yarn for more of like a DK weight. And I think that's what I want to do. But what I found interesting was when I paired it, what did I do with it? When I paired it with a neutral, it had this really interesting kind of effect, very like subtle color effect in the color work. And I really wanted it for this Halibut sweater, just to have it a little pop and less neutral. But I'll do it for a different one. But I thought that was really fun to find out. I think I might pair that with a fingering weight yarn rather than a mohair, because I didn't want the kind of halo around it. The Le Bien-Aimé worsted, curry worsted, has this kind of halo effect just because of the fibers from the sheep. But I think it kind of takes away from the color, kind of blurs it out a little bit, and I don't want it to blur out. I do want it to kind of stand out. So I thought that was really interesting. Whenever I do color work, I have to go up a needle size. That is one thing I wanted to cover. Sometimes you might see that your color work recedes into a sweater, and mine always does, because I don't know what about color work, it makes me knit tighter. So I always go up one needle size, and it just flattens it out. It makes it perfect. It's on gauge. It's everything. So if you are having trouble with color work looking too tight, just go up a needle size. Just cute little tip for you. Okay. Last but not least, I want to knit up a shawl. And so I'm in the early process of trying to figure out what shawl that is. But, and buying my, I'm going to wait until to go to Wool and Folk and New York Sheep and Wool to get this main color for a shawl. I've been looking at a few, so if you have a nice color work shawl that you want to recommend, just recommend it in the comments below. I'm open to suggestions. But I bought this from our local yarn shop called Hill Country Weavers. It's another one here in Austin. You might know it. It's the biggest one. It's Fairyland. It's like Disneyland for knitters here in Austin. It is wonderful. And I bought these two. This is I think it's like a mohair. Conchinilla is the colorway. And it's made of, actually it's alpaca. It is 80% alpaca and 20% silk. And then this one is the same colorway, but this is merino. And they're both lace weight, obviously, so I would hold them double, perhaps. I don't know, or maybe just knit with one. Who knows? Who knows where this is going to go? But, and then I wanted maybe like a light contrasting color for a upcoming shawl. I do gravitate to shawls. I'm thinking maybe this might be an opportunity for another brioche shawl. I really like brioche, but it takes so much more time for me just because sometimes I really mess up and I have to like put in a lifeline and go all the way back. Well, anyway, that is what I'm thinking about, is what's going to be the shawl. I really like just throwing something on, just taking it off if it gets too hot. Again, I live in Texas, so specifically Central Texas, and it can vary just by the day. So, for example, you wake up in the morning during the summer, it's like 78 degrees outside. It feels kind of nice. And then by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's 105. So there's like a 30-degree jump, and that goes for winter and summer. So you got to be able to like wear layers here. You really do. So I'm thinking about that. I'm also heading to my little yarn shop today. I'm going back to Hill Country Weavers. There is a indie dyer there that I want to check out. And also I saw some beautiful samples. So I'm going to show that in my next episode of what I find. If you don't already, follow me on my Instagram and you can see more updated kind of knitting adventures there. And sometimes I'll post up-to-date stuff of like what I'm knitting on there, just so you can see progress. If not, you can just join me here every Saturday. I'm usually here every Saturday. So that's really all I have today. I'm a busy bee. I'm a busy girl. I'm knitting away. I'm hoping to get a finished object for you by next week, maybe even 2. I won't do that to myself, probably just 1. And just waiting on some yarn to come in and then just going to visit other knitters. That's really what I'm doing this weekend. So thank you again for joining me. This is just a lovely like show and tell kind of thing that I like to do. And I'm so happy you guys are here and listening. Thank you again for joining. And until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye.